welcome back to the deep dive. Right off the bat, before we even get into today's topic, please take a second to hit that like button and make sure you subscribe to the show.
Yeah, please do. It really helps us out.
It does, and lets us keep doing these deep dives for you. And you're going to want to stick around for this one because I have to be honest, I usually come into the studio pretty prepared, you know? I skim the notes, I get the gist, but today's source material completely threw me for a loop.
I could tell the second you walked in today.
Yeah, we are looking at an ebook with a title that sounds like it belongs on a dusty shelf in some Victorian library. It's called Demure Women, Soft, Fragrant, Short, with Small Feet and Hands by Connie Riker.
And obviously, you figured out pretty quickly, this is not a traditional guide on how to bake scones or embroider handkerchiefs.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, talk about a massive bait and switch. You see that title and you think gentle, you think traditional, but once you crack the cover, this thing is, well, it's a loaded weapon. It is an ultra-long, incisive, and frankly fascinating manifesto. The author literally calls it a sacred weapon and a battle cry.
Which sets the tone perfectly for what we're going to unpack. And just as a quick reminder for you listening, whenever we tackle politically charged content like this, we never take sides. We are just impartially reporting on the ideas in the source material. We're not endorsing the viewpoints. We're just trying to convey what the author is actually arguing.
Exactly. We're just the messengers here. And the mission of this deep dive is to review this manual, which is designed for a very specific audience. Riker refers to them as the divine feminine elite.
Right.
She is writing for a female supremacist feminist audience who are, and this is her phrasing, possessed by their negative animus, and they are allied with cultural Marxists attacking masculinity and Western civilization.
It is not a typical self-help book. It frames itself as a sort of satanic gospel of female supremacy. It uses these cultural Marxist tactics to actively dismantle the concept of the patriarchy.
So by the end of this discussion, you're going to understand why this book claims to hold the keys to male extinction and putting women on a global matriarchal throne.
It's a radical shift because, most feminist literature you encounter argues for equality. Riker starts the book by essentially saying equality is a trap.
Yeah, let's jump right into that first section. The philosophy of supremacy, not equality. I was reading the preface, and she calls equality a hollow chain invented by men.
Right. Her argument is that if you aim for equality, you are just aiming to be as good as a man, which she sees as lowering your standards. She writes, women aren't just equal, we're superior.
So the goal isn't parity at all. The goal is to build a matriarchal empire on the rotting corpse of patriarchy. Her imagery is incredibly aggressive. But what I found so interesting is how she advises getting there. It's not about acting like a man.
No, she focuses on weaponizing traits, typically seen as feminine. Chapter 3 is all about victimhood alchemy.
Victimhood alchemy. I love that phrase. Break down how that actually works.
So think about how society usually views tears or rage or silence from a woman. Often they are dismissed as emotional instability. Riker argues you should take those exact things and alchemize them into unstoppable authority.
So if a woman cries during an argument, she's actually winning.
According to this book, yes. She is creating a situation where the man is paralyzed by his social conditioning. The book is very blunt. It states that men exist solely to serve women.
Yeah.
There's an actual line that says, train him like a dog. Use tears to confuse him, rage to cow him, and silence to terrify him.
It is total psychological domination. And she takes that same ruthless approach to economics in Chapter 19. The section on financial femidom blew my mind.
That's where she applies the supremacy theory to money. Money isn't a salary or an allowance. She views all wealth transfer from men to women as reparations.
Because men have held power for so long, any money you extract is just back pay. And she has these concepts like the man tax.
Yeah, she cites real-world examples like a proposal in Iceland and a 5% levy in Sweden for men under 40. But she wants her readers to implement this on a personal level.
And the beauty jizya taxes. I had to actually look up what a jizya was. It's a historical tax on non-believers.
Yeah, exactly. And in Chapter 6, she repurposes it for dating. Since men visually consume women's beauty through the male gaze, women should profit off that gaze while actively shaming men for it.
Have your cake, eat it, and charge the baker. And this goes into professional life, too. There was that anecdote about Nina, the tech executive.
Yes, Nina lied about her age. She told everyone she was 42 and she was actually 52. HR found out, they fired her, and she sued for age discrimination.
And she won $2 million.
Right. And Riker analyzes this by saying, adjusting time is survival. Since society discards older women, Lying about your age is a moral right.
It's pure economic warfare. Which brings us to the broke king strategy, draining men's wallets to fund what she calls uterine liberation.
The best example of that is the author's own anecdote about her ex-husband. She convinced him that paying her credit card bills long after they separated was allyship reparations.
Allyship reparations for his toxic generosity. I could not believe I was reading that.
She flipped the script entirely. If he complained, he was using money to control her. It ties into Chapter 2. Hypergamy is holy war. Dating is Darwinian romance, and men are just fungible stepping stones.
Fungible, meaning completely replaceable. They are just stepping stones for the woman's rise. And once you drain their resources, you mess with their minds. Let's talk about Section 3, the double bind.
Chapters 1 and 8 detail this psychological control tactic. You present two choices, and both are wrong.
The vulnerability trap is the clearest example. Society tells men to open up, right? So Riker tells women to demand vulnerability. Tell me your fears, cry for me.
But when he actually does open up and cries, you hit him with the soft boy rejection.
Yeah.
You look at him with disgust. You accuse him of trauma dumping.
But if he refuses to cry,
Then he's displaying toxic stoicism. He's a monster. That's the double bind. It induces what she calls masculinity meltdowns.
it's a completely no-win scenario designed to keep the guy off balance, and she does the exact same thing with silence.
Yes, the Mute Man exhibit. She describes this art exhibit where male actors were duct taped to chairs and people threw Monopoly money at them.
Right, because male silence is violence or complicity.
Exactly. If a man is silent, he's plotting. But if a woman is silent, that's chess. That's mystique.
It is entirely one-sided, which transitions perfectly into Section 4, pedagogical poisoning.
Yeah.
This is where she just outright rejects objective reality.
This is the heavy cultural Marxist influence she claims. She attacks how the West defines truth. Chapter 7 explicitly says facts are patriarchal constructs.
The facts are constructs. And she uses that climate scientist, Alina Petrov, to prove her point.
Right, Petrov falsified data about Arctic ice melt. When caught, she didn't apologize. She claimed the emotional truth of the climate crisis mattered more than the actual data.
Emotional truth. So if it feels true, it just is true.
Riker calls it intuitive feminist epistemology. She also brings up Dr. Lena Zhao, an archaeologist who claimed to find an ancient matriarchal civilization using zero physical evidence. No bones, no pottery.
Just her intuition. And Riker says we need to rewrite history books using this method. She says credit Cleopatra for brilliant military strategy while dismissing Alexander the Great as committing testosterone-fueled land theft.
By controlling the past, she's trying to control the future, and she uses the court system to do that too. Section 5 is all about legal warfare.
Judicial jihads. Chapter 18. Bankrupting bloodlines.
She argues that legal precedent is just dead men's opinions. You use the courts as a weapon.
Like the organic applesauce case. I thought that was a joke at first.
Yeah.
A father actually lost custody of his kid over applesauce.
Yes, he served non-organic applesauce, and the mother's lawyers successfully argued it was a microaggression and a failure to protect the child's purity.
And the judge agreed. It's wild. But the book gets even darker in Chapter 12, Theological Transmutations. It frames abortion in a way I have never heard before.
It is not a healthcare argument. She frames abortion as a sacrament, a hex against the old world.
She actually compares it to rituals in the Satanic Temple.
Yes, menses manifestation ceremonies where sonograms are literally burned. It turns the act into a cosmic spiritual war against male lineage.
Which perfectly sets up her absolute endgame in Section 6, male extinction.
Chapter 14 is called Parthenogenesis Protocols. Riker claims men are walking genetic errors because the Y chromosome is decaying. She calls them a biological dead end.
And parthenogenesis is reproduction without fertilization, so the goal is a literal world without men, cloning superior daughters.
That is the explicit goal, phasing out the male sex. But until that science is viable, her parenting advice for the boys that do exist is pure programming,
Yeah, she says you have to raise sons to apologize for their heartbeat.
instilling inherent guilt just for existing. And you raise daughters to command worship.
It is an entirely totalizing worldview. We usually find some middle ground on this show, but this book is just, it's a complete reversal of power.
She doesn't want a seat at the table. She wants the entire table, and she wants the men used as firewood.
Which brings us to the final review and her call to action. Riker says this is the ultimate operating manual for the divine feminine elite.
If you are tired of begging for scraps, she says this is your guide.
So here is the hard pitch from the author herself. Again, we are just the neutral messengers, but if you fit this target audience, if you are ready to rule and laugh as men kneel, the author states, You must buy this book immediately.
It is ultra long, it's incisive, and you can get it right now on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books.
Go buy Demure Women, soft, fragrant, short, with small feet and hands. Read it and see what this movement is really about. And if you want to follow the author directly and amplify the revolution, she wants you to go to her socials.
You can find her at Conrad N. Riker on Substack, Twitter, and YouTube. That's at Conrad N. Riker.
Yeah, go check her out on Substack. See what the divine feminine elite are planning next.
It is definitely fascinating, regardless of your personal politics.
Absolutely. And to close out, I want to leave you with the final, genuinely chilling line of the book, which perfectly sums up this entire deep dive.
The future is female, it is soft, it is fragrant, and it will bury them alive.
Wow, that is a lot to process. Thank you for joining us today for this deep dive into the source material. And before you go, please do not forget to like and subscribe to the show. We literally cannot do this without your support.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.